Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're driving one of the most exciting cars I think I've ever featured on the channel. This is the 1963 Ferrari 250 GT Lusso. The Lusso is the luxury version of the 250. And we've driven other 250s in the past. We've done GTEs, we've done PF Coupes. I've had a couple in between, even like a TR, replica, and a Cal Spider, all of which have completely different personalities. Some are outrageously rowdy and raucous that they just feel like straight up race cars, because Ferrari did build race cars. But for 2 years, they built 351 Lussos, which were designed to be road-going, luxurious stunners. This is one of the most gorgeous Pininfarina designs of all time. And today, even in 2025, I think this can be looked at as one of the most beautiful cars ever built. And somehow this design always makes it look larger than it is, but this is one of the short wheelbase 250s. You'll notice there's only 2 seats, and behind the driver and passenger seats is just a beautiful parcel shelf. This was recently restored, I believe, in Italy, and it actually just came back from Cavallino, where it won an award. I think it was its best in class. It won a platinum award. And as I've been driving this a little bit today, and I'm going to show you and demonstrate later, it is just as good to drive as it is to look at. And part of the reason is because, as beautiful as it is, it also has a beautiful powertrain. This has a Colombo V12, of course, 3 liters, or 2.953 if we want to be exact. We love these Colombo engines, but what's completely incredible to me, which is what I've been so lucky to experience throughout this career of driving all these vintage cars, is that they all have a different personality. A Pininfarina Coupe, a Testarossa, a Cal Spider, and now this Lusso or a GT. They all have different personalities. I haven't been lucky enough to drive a GTO yet. I say yet because I'm hopeful. But what's incredible is that this is such a versatile engine. It was out there winning races, but in this application, it makes for a great street car, and it still revs to, I think, 8,000 RPM. Now, this one was recently redone, so we're not going to be probably hitting 8,000 RPM today. We're going to try to be a little nice to it, but it makes 240 horsepower. You've got these triple Webers under here, and it just always looks so exciting to open the hood of one of these things and see what's going on. Now, suspension-wise, you've got double wishbones up front, a live axle rear end in the back, and a 4-speed manual gearbox. I do believe that some cars came with a 5-speed, which would be very helpful on the highway. In the back, this iconic rear end that just drops so quickly, and those who have a very keen eye will notice that these are not ANTA exhaust tips. They're actually Abarth tips, and that's why they sort of jut out to the side. So that's maybe the one thing that's not exactly period correct, but I think that looks really cool and adds a lot to it. And if this rear end looks a little bit familiar to you, it's probably because you're familiar with the 275 GTB, which was the successor to this 250 Lusso. So it all comes together, and you start to see the style that ended up ruling the Ferrari world in the near future. Inside, 250s, I think, are my favorite interiors, because when you get down the line, you get into 365s and 330s. They start to play the game of like wood dashboards and things. What I love is just Veglia gauges, a really nice wood rimmed steering wheel with 3 spokes, the perfect horn, and these chrome bezeled gauges that just give you all the information you could possibly want without obstructing the view from the cabin. This has incredible visibility, and I love that these rear glass open up. This is such a beautiful thing to operate, and I'm really excited to take you for a ride in it today. Gluing us to the road is a 185 section tire on a 15-inch Barani knockoff. And for those who think I'm saying that they're fake, no, knockoff meaning it has a center lock, which you hit with a hammer to make sure it's going to stay on, which we did before I left. I always have my trusty mechanic, Justin, give an extra little hit to these to make sure that I'm not going to end up in some unforeseen scenario that could have been prevented. And then behind it, 4-wheel disc brakes, which is really nice because this car still drives modern enough, despite the fact that this is a proper restoration. So maybe it drives a little bit better than it ever did. And there is room for some storage back here, although It's taken up by a fifth wheel for the most part. And this is where you fill the gas tank, which is kind of cool because the lines are not interrupted by a gas door, nor are they interrupted by any side mirrors, which we'll get to that when we're driving. Sometimes I'd sacrifice a little bit of style for a mirror, but we'll be just fine. You got plenty of visibility in there. Every time I approach the car, I find a new line that I really like. I love the way this creases here. And then the way this door opens, even, you know, you can tell a car has been properly done when the windows wind up and down really well. That's lovely. Inside, now I didn't grow up with real money or anything like that, so I get in here and I say, ooh, Burlington Coat Factory or Wilson's Leather. Those are the memories that come to mind when I smell this, but this is really high grade stuff. So maybe if you grew up around Prada and Gucci or Versace, this would maybe remind you of something a little more high class, but still good for me nonetheless. So let's jump in, start it up, and take it for a drive. So like any vintage Ferrari, it's always a little bit cumbersome to get to these pedals, but this actually isn't too bad. It is a small pedal box and everything's offset a little bit. And we've got our key over here. So what we'll do to start our Ferrari, we've got our auto flux on, so we've got a fuel pump. We're gonna turn this. You hear that? That's the fuel pump. So you listen till that tick basically just ticks every so often, like tick, tick, like that. And then you know you're good to go. Then you push the key in to get it rolling. So we'll add a little bit of throttle. There we go. It's funny, on the cold start, this thing was just instant. On the hard start, it just needs to think because I've been moving the car around a little bit. Not that big a deal. But listen, it idles perfectly. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's the good stuff. Just double check that this is actually our directional. Oh yeah, okay, all right. I'm a happy boy. There is some consideration for safety. So we've got a lap belt here. And that's about it. You sit a little bit tall in the cabin, down with the parking brake, and a normal H pattern 4-speed. Reverse is over and forward, where like fifth gear would be. So don't try for fifth. Seating position is nice, but I gotta say, driving this on camera is a little difficult because my visor is hitting this visor. So I've got to be in a slightly strange position, but we're okay. This thing rips. This is amazing. Even in this sort of mid-range, it's just a little go machine, and it's comfortable. Typically, I've always thought of 250s as like agricultural. They always feel like I'm driving a tractor or something. I do not feel that way in this car. The Lusso is a different animal, and I didn't actually know a 250 could feel this different. Which now makes me really wonder what a GTO is like, because if you think you've gotten a taste of what the car is just because you've driven other 250s, I might be way wrong. I might be way off as to what that actually feels like and how it is to drive. I'm struck by how short the gearing is as well in this car. That 1-2, you gotta be on it. Otherwise, you're gonna be a little bit behind. And the sound this makes it's subdued, it's subtle. It's kind of like how an E39 M5 with a kind of incredibly powerful 5-liter V8 does not sound like a race car unless you straight pipe it. So this is like proof positive that you can have a pretty outrageous Colombo V12 under the hood, and it doesn't need to be shouty. I mean, it obviously makes the right sounds, and there's no doubt about that. But it's not snapping and popping and banging and cracking. It's just behaving. It's classy. It's so revvy. The steering, you gotta muscle it a little bit, but that's part of the charm. It is so comforting when everything works in a car like this. You know, it's so frequent that I get in a car like this and an oil pressure gauge gets pinned and doesn't work, or the temperature gauge gets pinned or never comes alive, or, you know, the water temp seems wonky and you're like, man, I know we're not being bad. I know the conditions are fine for what we're doing. I certainly hope the car is okay. And sometimes you have to take the word from your mechanic who's like, no, I've shaken it down. It's good. Don't worry about what that says. This all works. This is good stuff. A very involved driving experience though, but genuinely comfortable and oddly confidence inspiring. I think like if you were to get in a 250 and try to feel like you were meant to drive a 250, this would be it. This is the best, easiest kind of 250 experience I think I've ever had in my life. blown away. Everything about this car is dialed and tight and easy. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I look at like concourse cars that just look perfect. They're like too good, you know, they seemingly only drive onto a trailer, off of a trailer, down a golf course green, and then that's it. No, no, no. This was built to drive. This car is incredible. It belongs on the road. Whoever ends up with this car is gonna use it. I hope so. I mean, I'm not one of those people that really poo-poos on the garage queens. It is beautiful, so as an art piece alone, it's fine. It's fantastic even. But the way this gets around and just kind of begs to be thrashed a little bit like old Ferraris do. They don't like you to be gentle. They want you to get into it a little bit. And I think because this exhaust isn't blaringly loud, but it's certainly apparent and incredible, it really encourages you to kind of wind it out more than I thought I was going to today, frankly. I thought I was just going to putt around and just get the Lusso experience light, but instead I feel like I'm out here really enjoying myself and having a good time. Look at that Escort. Oh my god, how is that still alive? Intrigued and obsessed with the way this is so rev happy. I mean, listen to this little rev match on the downshift. It just comes alive like that. This like lightweight V12 feeling of just whenever you're ready for it, tell me, I'm there. Now, handling wise, it is a little different than 250s I've driven in the past, and it seems like, so from what I can tell is they've pushed this engine kind of forward in the chassis in order to make room for stuff, visibility and passengers and things. And obviously that changes the weight distribution up a little bit. It's not bad though. I feel like I need to be a little cautious on my entries, but that's also because I'm driving $1 million perfectly restored Ferrari. So I don't know. I think we'd have to like push a little harder in different environments to really explore that notion. The gearbox. This is easy. This is the only thing in the car that I think feels a little agricultural, just because you got to manhandle it a little bit. It's plenty precise. And I've driven 250s that are like wonkier, or shift patterns that feel like I've had to explore them a little bit more to be precise. Not this one. Oh, those happy chickens. I'm a happy chicken. And honestly, the coolest thing about this car is that I don't feel that stressed out when it comes to traffic. Like, I'm often in vintage, expensive cars and thinking, oh no, what if, you know, what if we get stuck in traffic? What if this happens? And this car just seems to have been built to be a car. Like, I know that sounds silly, but for whatever reason, I trust it. You know, I trust this thing to get me back. Look at this, it'll take some train tracks. it didn't just fall apart on me. It goes into first gear, clunkily, my bad. It goes into first gear with no issues. It's got a synchro. Look at that. That's good stuff. This car really goes to show and highlight how versatile this Colombo V12 is, how it can do all things. It can be a race car, it can be a street car, it can be a luxury car. And this is the beauty of Ferrari, is that maybe they didn't set out to make luxurious street cars for their customers like this, but they were able to because their racing gave them reliable powertrains to sell to customers, and then therefore fund the racing teams later on. So it's a beautiful spring day. It's near 80 degrees here in Massachusetts. I am gonna go bring this back to Bond Group, but I am just floored at how vibrant, exciting, relaxing, usable this 250 Lusso is. Not all 250s are equal. Drive all the variants. I mean, I know that's like a very privileged thing to say, but the reality is I am so just enamored with how different the spectrum of 250s are, and this Lusso has really kind of opened a new door for me. So, thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, whether you're driving a Lusso or a GTO. And I'll see you in the next one. Oh, what a car.